what we don't know about it is what's going to be the magnitude of the earthquake, and we don't know what the impact would be. But then we have a lot of unknown unknowns. That is, we don't even know that such a hazard exists, and we are exposed to that. And I think those are the ones we need to be really worried about, because I think what we should be aware of is that I think as human minds, we fail to take in a lot of complexities. And typically our understanding of the world around us, it consists of very small and very unrepresentative observations based on our experiences. And we seem to always think that the future is going to mirror the past. And we know that's not happening. If you look at all the kinds of terrorist attacks, the cyber attacks, all of that we've been seeing in the past decade. The past is going to be no way to be able to project the future. So if we even look at the kind of disasters we've had in India in the past couple of decades now, I've just kind of broken it into, if you're looking at the Bhopal gas tragedy, I would say it was an unknown unknown. We did not even know we were exposed to that hazard. I mean, who knew within Bhopal that the Union Carbide factory over there was possibly going to expose them to this kind of a hazard? The people didn't know, the authorities didn't know, and what we had was 4,000 people dead, right? Then we had the Ahmedabad earthquake. Now, actually, that was a known unknown. We know that the area in Kutch is a highly seismic one, and you are going to have its effects even 300 kilometers down to Ahmedabad, but we kind of felt it hasn't really happened in the past, so the impact was unknown. So though the hazard was known, the impact was unknown, and you had more than 13,000, 14,000 people dead. The tsunami of 2004 was indeed an unknown unknown. I don't think anybody had expected, though history should have told us better, but we forget events which happened 100 years ago. We did not expect that we would have the effect of the tsunami onto the eastern coast of India, and we would have more than 10,000 people dead. On the other hand, I would say that the Srinagar and Chennai floods, though the fatalities were just in the range of 500, 600, are actually quite unforgivable in terms of the kind of hazard we had created, because those should have been known hazards. We have very little to defend ourselves when we have filled up water bodies and built on top of that. And we're talking about in Chennai, where we blocked the estuaries, or in Srinagar, where we filled into a lake bed. So I would call these as known disasters. Uttarakhand, climate change, we knew that there's some kind of a hazard. We just did not know it's going to be having this magnitude, and we are going to have more than almost 6,000 people dead. So I think we first of all need to look back and see how many of the hazards which we have faced in the last couple of decades are in the known unknown. And I think that would kind of give us a sobering feeling and realize that we need to have a more tentative approach rather than a definitive one that we've cracked it all. And one thing we must understand, that urbanization is going to take a big toll on everything which we have in terms of infrastructure. If you just look at this picture of the city of Gangtok, and this is an old picture going back more than 60 years ago, and today you look at this. And what are we doing? What are we doing to our cities? We are building on very hazardous locations. We are building on slopes which have not been studied for their landslide potential. We have the entire construction of all of these cities. It would be hard to find even 10% of the building stock built for hazard resistance, whether it's earthquakes or floods or very high winds. And if we look at it and we're saying this has been built over 50 years, and you just begin to wonder, but we did have a municipal corporation. We did have all the authorities. Why was such a huge development done unchecked. And it was very interesting that when we had gone in 2011 after the Sikkim earthquake to do a reconnaissance, and we were told that more than 70% of the buildings in that city were unauthorized. And I'm just saying, I'm in the authority. I'm looking at it. I'm seeing it happen brick by brick every day. And, why am I not empowered to do something? So this is the problem which we have. So here we are, if we are looking, we're on the left side, we're all listening, and we're all preaching to the converted, because we all agree. There's no difference. When I'm saying something, you're going to agree. Maybe we'll have minor differences. But there is no major difference of opinion that we need to take in very strong disaster risk reduction measures and what those could be. But you go out there, and you're this lone person who is keeping on saying, look, 2 by 2 is equal to 4. And everyone else around says 2 by 2 is equal to 5. And how are you going to change this? How are you going to, kind of catch the bull by the horns and make good this disconnect between the policy and all of us talking waxing so eloquent on what needs to be done, and having very little effect at the operational level? I think that's something which is very sobering for me, having worked for more than 15 years in this field. I'm going to give you 3 live examples of what I see practically every day. On the left-hand side is the development plan of the city of Mumbai, where I live. And we just had a new development plan last year. And at the bottom right, what you see are 15-story buildings which have a gap of 10 feet, 3 meters. There's a gap of 3 meters. I have a fire on the 10th floor of one of the buildings, and the fire tender guy is just scratching his brain as to how will he access it. And this kind of construction, if you come to the Mumbai city, is so rampant. It goes under the name of slum rehabilitation programs. And we have very, very eminent people here from Mumbai, and we're unable to do anything about it. We are seeing this happen. And it's a very sobering thing that what we say here and what happens outside is very different. Another project which I would like to point out, I don't know if some of you would be able to recognize it. This is the Sabarmati Riverfront Development Project. And at that time, I remember I was the Disaster Management Authority. I wrote to the state, and I said, this is very serious. You are narrowing a river from 350 meters to 275 meters. There are no credible environment impact studies. There are no credible hydrology studies. And in fact, there were certain institutes of repute they went to, and they were told, this should not be done. So you get a post facto report. But even the post facto report was careful, and it said that the calculations of carrying capacity required are incorrect. We saw what happened in 2006. There was heavy flooding over there. 2 years ago, just by hair's breadth, the Sabarmati River escaped flooding. But I think, as somebody was telling me in the morning, that was a trailer, and you can have a lot of havoc. Now, these kind of river training projects, we all know in Europe, have had an effect of flooding which has happened after 20, 30 years, because they become far more vulnerable with climate change also coming in. And the reason I bring this up is because this is a project which is tom-tommed so much, and it's become a template for doing river training projects across the country. And we're not really able to say, okay, let's take a step back, and there's beautification required, which is wonderful, but let's be a little bit less cowboyish, if that's a word I may want to use, because this is very serious for all of us who study this project, and be a bit more careful about doing such sweeping river training projects, or I would call them river narrowing projects. The third project which I would like to talk about is the Mantralaya fire. In Mumbai in 2012, the Mantralaya had a very huge fire which went on for many, many hours, and it destroyed a lot of records which were collected over tens of decades. But that apart, in the refurbishing of this project, there's been a significant amount of funding which has been utilized. Despite this being a great opportunity for upgrading this building to the present levels as required by the codes, and the municipal corporation itself requiring and mandating that when you are going to add to a structure, you need to bring it to the present code levels of safety. The Mantralaya building itself has violated these requirements. Okay. So really what I'm pointing out and what I'm trying to bring out is, by talking all the time about disaster risk reduction initiatives, we're putting the cart before the horse. I mean, the first thing we need to do is get risk perception across to all the stakeholders. And I think let's accept we've not been successful enough. I think maybe we have communication problems. Maybe we are not able to integrate disaster risk reduction with the growth story adequately. But I think that the fault lies within us, and we need to introspect. I'm also going to talk now about what are we going to do in the urban cities which are growing so fast, and how are we going to make them resilient?
Alpa.
Yes. This is the city of Agra, okay? I mean, just have a look at it. How are you going to bring in infrastructure and with the limitations of financial resources? See, there is a laundry list which all of us know, and I'm just going to let it be seen that we all know, all of the municipal corporations know that this needs to be done. We need to regulate buildings, we need to regulate hazards, all of this stuff. I mean, it's on paper, everybody knows we need to encourage community action, provide adequate early warning systems, and so on. But there's an elephant in the room which nobody wants to talk about, and that is the slums. Today, let's accept that 30% of India in the urban areas lives in slums. And what are we really doing about that? Are we really looking after? That's one community of ours which lives in overcrowded areas with hazardous land. It's not even it doesn't even have very basic services or even a secure tenure of land. And what are we doing for the safety, as what Mr. Thirupugal yesterday said? Which 70% of the population you're going to save if the Sendai framework says 70%? Which are these the 30% you're going to leave behind? We need to think about this if we are going to be a more inclusive society. Again, as I said, we all know this is a typical list, that we understand that there are all of these critical systems in the urban infrastructure that we need to take care of. But I just want to point out, again, I'm going back to the fact that, let's accept that there are known hazards and we can take care of them. But if we come across unknown hazards, we must develop our critical systems to ensure that these fail gracefully. Okay, and there's not going to be a sudden failure. There's not going to be a domino effect because of any of our systems failing. So therefore, we do need to have a flexible and robust approach, especially to the unknowns and uncertains, rather than, fixed and, okay, this is my fixed hardware and these are my buildings. Buildings, I think we've cracked it. We just don't have a will to do it right. But if we have a will, we will be able to crack it. But I think what we're still not very nuanced in our understanding is all of the unknown hazards and what is going to be our strategy in dealing with them. I think one suggestion I have is, if all of the stakeholders, this is my last slide, all of the stakeholders here, especially in different departments, they all worry when they're going to have an audit by the CAG. I wish we can create a similar RAG, the Risk Auditor General, and every department is really fearful of them, and it is also peopled by real experts who have confidence in their knowledge and who have the ability to say it as it to every department, especially to the urban development departments and the municipal corporations. Or the other way is that we embed a DRR expert in all of these. I think we all are aware of this toolkit which is required for urban resilience. I'm not going to get into it. You can look at the slide. Thank you.
Some questions? A couple of questions from the floor. Yep. Can you get the mic right there in the central section?
Excuse me.
आपके पास है already? Okay, the second mic will go to you. Sir.
I'm Joint Secretary from the Ministry of Panchayat Raj. So I just wanted to correct a few things. First is, of course, as everybody knows, there's been a huge devolution of funds under the 14th Finance Commission directly to the panchayats, specifically to the Gram Panchayats. About 2,292 crores, and that is going directly to the Gram Panchayats. So it is mandated that the formation of Gram Panchayat development plans is a necessary precondition for the utilization of these FFC funds that are going to the Gram Panchayats. So these are what are called GPDPs, Gram Panchayat Development Plans. The intention of the GPDPs is that it is supposed to help the Gram Panchayats to find local solutions to the local problems. And these are untied funds. So the Gram Panchayats are supposed to use the FFC funds, the SFC funds, the own sources of revenue, and any other funds that they have. They are supposed to make local plans for that to address the local problems. Now the situations in Gram Panchayat varies because this is a country of huge diversity. So it may be in some areas the focus is going to be on drought proofing. In some areas it is going to be maybe focusing more on disaster management, like those areas that are quite prone to disaster management, like areas prone to flooding. So it is open to the Gram Panchayats to formulate their own plans. But I would also like to put it on record that soon after the devolution of funds to the Gram Panchayats, the Ministry of Panchayat Raj immediately formulated the model guidelines for GPDPs, and these were shared with the states, and series of workshops and write-shops was also held with the states. And consequently, I'm happy to state that all the states, all the Part 9 states have now already notified their own GPDP guidelines, and these are being implemented in the field. So I'm also happy to state that as per information available with us, in last year, more than about 1,78,000, as per information available with us, more than 1,78,000 GPDPs were formulated throughout the year, and these were implemented. So
thank you, sir. Thank you.
Also in terms of...
Sir, for want of time, we will have to keep it short.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody had a question?
First, the gentleman there, and then the lady here. Yeah. Sir, again, I request, keep it brief.
Very brief, thank you.
Pointed
Sir, on
question.
the right side also?
Yeah, this
side also.
Right
My
side
question-
here, sir, here.
Yeah, this side also. Okay.
Yeah, my question is for Patnaik ma'am. In most of the HRBA program and other risk maps, what we are seeing, most of the risk maps are up to taluk level, maybe prepared on the base map of 1 in 50,000 scale. That is 1 centimeter is equal to 500 meter. But as I said yesterday, risk is related to the element and distribution of element. Now, in case insurance company comes into play, then what type of maps they require for fixing the premium? Will the entire distinct zone as a red color is enough, or they will go with the element of risk and its distribution? If that be so, then what would be the minimum resolution they will be requiring? Because are we in a position to do it?
We got the question. Thank you. Thank you. We'll take the question from that side and then come. In the
Thank you,
meantime,
sir.
mic yahan madam ko dijiyega. Sir.
Sir, I'm Rahul Jain, District Collector from Madhya Pradesh, Riva. Sir, my point is related to the crop insurance. Presently, the Fasal Bima Yojana is not compulsory for all the farmers. It's voluntary. And as we see in the field that the bankers are not taking the ownership of covering maximum farmers, especially the non-loany farmers. So my point is that if we can go for compulsory coverage of Fasal Bima covering all the farmers, it will be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam.
I'm Principal Secretary Revenue Chhattisgarh. It was very heartening to learn about those 3 Panchayat Raj institutions which did such good work. And there would be many such examples. We also know states like Gujarat and Bihar have done a lot of good work. So I think there's a lot we can learn from each other. So if NDMA could document these success stories, wherever good work has been done, and organize some study visits where other states, other PRI institutions, other stakeholders could visit and learn, I think it would be a good experience.
Thank you, ma'am. Some other question. Yeah, sir, from Nagaland.
I'm Mr. Jody from Nagaland, taking care of the Disaster Management Authority of Nagaland. I have a question for the risk transfer. I think risk transfer, if you really look at it, is one of the 4 pillars of the Sendai framework. And I think it's high time that we, the largest democratic country in India, we need to really take that into huge considerations, because without being, that initiative of risk transfer, we will not be able to do anything. When we are talking about mitigations, it's all about that. Therefore, I think that risk transfer point is one area that we need to really look at it, and then the line ministries who are here, I think even the RBI deputy governor is here. I think we need to really look at that kind of allocations for the risk transfer, and I believe the central ministries can come up some package for the states to take up the risk transfer. For Nagaland, we are taking care of the risk transfer initiative. Even this evening also, we will be talking with the KfW, the German Development Bank. We are trying to negotiate with state, we're trying to go ahead with it. But I do not know whether there will be any hurdles from the Ministry of Finance that we need to really look at it.
Okay.
And then second point, when we are talking about the village level, we have the village disaster management authorities in almost all the villages. We are still trying to learn the process and come up better. I brought 2 village disaster management authorities chairmen here, and they are not the
What is the question? Sir,
Yeah.
what is the question on village
So my question is, if the village disaster management authority, when we are talking about, some states will call village disaster management committee, some states will call village disaster management authority. If NDMA can come out specifics, like we have NDMA, SDMA, DDMA, and at the village level, let's call it committee or let's call it authority. I think that kind of guidelines will be required. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The
So
gentleman
one
on the
last.
mic.
Yes, thank you very much. I am Kamal Misra from Odisha State Disaster Management Authority. My query is to the Honorable Chair and Professor Patnaik. There is provision of mitigation fund in the Disaster Management Act 2005. But during the last 15 or 12, 13 years of our existence with the Act, the mitigation fund has not been created, and we have been guided by the awards of the successive finance commissions. Whenever I take up any training program at the district and state level, it is queried whether the acts are preconceived or the finance commissions are better equipped or more knowledgeable to provide the awards. So I'd like the enlightened panel to enlighten us on this. The second issue, if mitigation fund is provided, so far planning in our country is concerned, we are mostly project-centric or program-centric. So where does mitigation fund fit into that scenario? The third query, my respect to Mr. Binoy Acharya, because the multipurpose cyclone and flood shelters in Odisha, the Panchayat Raj institutions have been bestowed with the responsibility with the specific appointment of the Gram Panchayat Sarpanch as the president of the Cyclone Shelter Management and Maintenance Committee. That is done because of the funding available with the Gram Panchayats and also the powers available with them to maintain the cyclone shelters and for better community mobilization resources.
Thank you. Thank you. Last question from the gentleman there.
Hello,
Dosti mein.
sir. I'm S.K. Jain, ADG Home Guard, Haryana. I wanted to say, sir, interlinking of rivers, there is a plan that we can connect these rivers through pipes, through some drainage pipes, instead of connecting for navigation purpose. just for switching water from one river to other river. Similarly, for flooding of the river, can we have the drainage pipe connected directly to the wells? I mean, instead of, if it goes beyond that level, it directly drains into the wells. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Last thought, he raised the hand first, but we stopped him, so he's feeling bad. My good friend, please give it to him. Last one.
I am Dr. Pawan Kumar Singh, Senior Research Officer, NDMA. I will ask only 3 quick questions. Only very small, sir. it is. I just wanted to ask who will pay the premium and from which fund, because now SDRF does not allow reconstruction, and NDRF will also be restricted after this GST come into force and with more financial autonomy. Second, like the Supreme Court has applied the principle of vicarious liability in Upar case, whether the scope of Public Insurance Liability Act should be enlarged. And third, when Bangladesh has championed the cause of macro insurance, does India require the same set of product? It is a process, rather a process with no premium, so that it can cater to the rural population. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, for want of time, we have to hold. The program will get delayed. Honestly, we'll take it at tea. I assure you the 3 panelists here will definitely answer your question. I'll request Professor Patnaik to start the responses.
Let me start with the question on the mitigation fund. So the only blame that I accept is that I belong to NIPFP, and we have been the support for almost all the finance commissions. So perhaps the problem lies in the fact that it is not clear what a mitigation fund will do and how it is to be used. And that's something that I raised in my presentation also, that maybe that's where the problem lies. Because, you know, if it was a very clear, well-established international best practice, or if it was very clear theoretically that, you know, just basic first principles, that this is the amount of fund, this is how you use it, this is how you distribute it across states, then I'm sure that the finance commissions would also have pushed further on it. It's already there in the Act, and I mean, I suppose we are in violation of the Act by not having it. So it should be there. So, you know, assuming that everybody has the best intentions for doing this and everyone wants to do this, I think the issue is that are we clear today about what is the fund going to do and how will it be distributed? And maybe we need to think a lot more, and you know, everybody here needs to think a lot more, write about it, think about it, try and figure out how that should be done before we say we just have a fund. And I'm quite sure that the next Finance Commission will be responsive to this if there is more clarity on the issue, and that can be pushed. On the insurance companies' data requirements, I'm no expert on the geo whatever data you guys talk about. So, but I do know that because they want to charge a premium depending on the risk, so the kind of data that insurance companies normally want is very detailed. But that's about all that I can say. Thank you.
I am in sync with Joint Secretary MOPR completely. In fact, I could have highlighted more, saying that the 14th Finance Commission Financial Devolution is a landmark decision. And through this development fund, decentralized development fund, we can do a lot about disaster risk reduction. What is required perhaps is we need to give a push to it. That's my only point. And ma'am from Chhattisgarh, ma'am, agree with you. That's a very good decision, and a lot of good work is going on. We must share and learn from each other. With regard to micro-insurance, I am not a micro-insurance person, but since Professor Patnaik didn't answer that, you know, my experience says that we really don't know what kind of product. People don't know actually, we might be knowing. A lot of advertisement is required, a lot of education is required. Today, if you see the newspaper, it talked about that Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana and other Yojana, it came in the newspaper. but how you get it, how do you get claim, how to make the claim, those kind of details our insurance companies are not doing. So we need to be little demand more from the insurance companies, and the products need to be analyzed very regularly. I think that we have many insurance products, but education is required at the kind of bottom level.
The Fasal Bima Yojana, whether banks can do more, I think that was a question that was asked. One is, of course, the banks will insist on insurance, crop insurance, covering the loans that they have granted. The banks are the instrumentalities through which